So hello class. Today we're gonna talk about the how to create a budget tracker using Google Sheets, and I will show you how to use the conditional statements that we discussed on our previous lesson to this lesson today. So first, what I did here is I created first an income column, then an expense column, right? Then under that I have two two columns below the income, which is the salary and the freelance work. And under the expense, we have rent and utilities. So, um, how can you able to create two columns inside inside a one column, right? So the way you can do this is I will go to I will right click this one. I will go to format. Then I will just unmerge this so that you can be able to see. Okay, so unmerge that. So we have two cells here, right? And this on the expense we have two cells. So the way you can um, merge this to one column is by selecting these two cells, right? So just select this one, right? Then drag. Okay. Then once you selected those two cells, you are going to go to format. Go to format. Then on the merge cells, merge all, right? So there you go. Then we're gonna do the same process here. So I will just drag, select one cell, then drag, right? Then click format, then merge cells and merge all. Okay? Then you can start doing the other columns below it, right? So that's how you can be able to create it. Then here on the salary, this will be under the income, right? So let's assume that this is monthly, right? This each row is monthly, right? So we have here the freelance work. Then on the expense we have the rent, then the utilities, right? So I just inputted these numbers. So we don't have a any formula there. So what we are going to do here below is we have the total income, we have total expenses, then we have net balance, right? Then we also have a minimum allocated savings. So meaning if you want to save uh, a specific amount of money, then you will put it here, right? So in order to let's assume that you the money that you will put here comes from the net balance, right? So because um, it is your leftover income, right? The net balance. Okay, so we have the savings goal. So the savings goal is how much money, what is how much money do you want to save, right? What is your specific goal, right? So let's go ahead. Let's go back to total income. So in order to compute the total income, so that would be the salary and the freelance work, right? So all these numbers here, you're going to add that to compute the total income. So let's double click this. So what I did is I created a sum function, right? So let's try to delete that and do that. So I created a sum function. So this one. Then I specify the range that I want to. So I want to add the columns starting from column starting from A3 down to B, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with A3, correct? Because let's assume this is the first month, right? Then all the way down to B12 because the we want to add all these columns, right, and rows basically. So what I did here is I set a range from A3 colon to B12. So meaning it will it will add and it will add also the columns and rows from the column A, right? Because you are specifying a range up to B12. So that's how you can be able to add those columns and rows, right? Okay. Then if you want to if you want to include C column, then you can specify it also from C up to C12. So it will add columns from A, B, and C, right? Starting from A3 to C12. So that basically that's what it means here when using the sum function. So let's go back to B12, right? Then if you click enter, it will get added, right? So for the total expense, same process. So we're gonna just use the sum function again. Then starting from C3, right? Then going down to D12 in order to add also the rows from column C, right? So C3 colon D12. So it's up ranges up starting from C3 to D12. So as you can see, it is highlighting the rows, right? That we use on the sum function. So you can easily determine if your formula is correct, right? If you are if the range that you want to add is correct, right? So click enter, then it will add it, right? Then let's go to net balance. To compute the net balance is it's your leftover income, meaning um, it is your total income less expense, right? So to do that, just simply minus the cell A14, right? So cell A14, which is the total income, then minus it to B14, which is the total expense, right? Then you have 136,500. So that is your total net balance, right? So we go ahead with the minimum allocated savings, which here we specify that the minimum savings would be 5,000. So let's assume that we want to save a minimum of 5,000, right? So below 5,000 is not um, is invalid, right? So here um, we have our savings goal here, which is 100,000. So since they are both equal, it says here on the progress, congratulations, you have completed your savings goal. So I will discuss later how we can display this kind of text, right, using the if statement. So let's just try to change this number. So let's try a bit lower, right? Let's say 50,000. Okay. So as you can see, it computed the progress here says that it's 50%. Since your saving goal is 100,000 and you already put here 50,000, so that's 50% of your save from your 50% of your savings goal, right? So the formula for that, so let me just cut this first, right? So the formula for that would be I will merge these cells first, right? Then the formula for that would be to compute your progress, right? That would be D14 divided by E14, correct? So as you can see, it's the same. Let's put it here. Okay. So as you can see, it's the same, right? It's 50%, right? Even if you change that number, let's say you make it higher, so 70%. Your progress is 70%, right? And if you put 100,000, which is your savings goal, so it will says 100%, right? Because you have completed your, meaning you have completed your savings goal, right? So if I change 5%, 5,000, it will says 5%. Your progress is 5. So basically, when you use this mathematical equation, when you divide the D14 then divide by E14, you will get a decimal number, right? So in order for you to display a percentage instead of a decimal number, you just have to click this cell here. Then what you want to do is, here on the toolbar, you see the percent sign. This it says format as percent. So just click that. Then it will automatically turn your decimal number to this one, right? So it says here 5%. So if you calculate that 100,000 on the calculator, sorry, 5,000, you divide that to 100,000, that would be 0.05. So since we since I already uh, format it as percent here on the toolbar here, since I already did that earlier, so it converts it to a percentage, right? Instead of a decimal number like this one on your calculator, 0.05, right? So that's how you can do it. Now, let's proceed to the condition statement, right? So, for the condition statement, let's say here that um, the minimum allocated saving is 5,000, right? So that's 5,000. So this one is correct. Let's say it's only 1,000. So instead of the progress displaying the result, I want to be able to, we want to be able to display here that it will say that minimum saving is 5,000, like what you see here below, right? The one that I created earlier. So instead of displaying 1%, since this is 1,000 is below 5,000, because our minimum should be 5,000, we should be saving a minimum of 5,000, right? So we want a condition wherein it says that if it's below 5,000, it must be, the minimum savings is 5,000. It must display a text like that here. Then also we have another condition. So this is three conditions, right? So the next condition is, I want to be able to, here on the progress, I want to be able to display a text wherein if the minimum allocated savings that you put here, the amount that you put here is greater than the net balance, it should display that you do not have enough net balance, right? Because, why is that? Because your net balance is your total net income less expense already. So if you put here, let's say 200,000, so that's not possible, right? How can you be able to allocate a savings of 200,000 um if your net balance is only 136,500? So that must be invalid. So instead of the progress displaying 200% here, it should display that you don't have enough net balance, right? So let's just assume that this is the only money that you have, right? For this example, right? That we are going to create. So you cannot put 200,000 here because your net balance is only 136,500. So it must display here on the progress that you don't have enough balance. So that's our condition 2. Now, for the condition 3, right? Let's say your saving goals has been reached. So let's say here 100,000, right? So it says here 100%, right? But if you want to display different um, a different output, like let's say I want to say congratulations, you have completed your savings goal, right? So that's our condition number 3. So if your minimum allocated savings is greater than, right? Greater than or equal to the savings goal, then it should display congratulations, you have completed your savings goal, right? Correct. So how are we going to do that? So let's start. So I'm gonna delete this computation, but we're going to need that later on, right? So first, let's use an if statement. So we have an if statement, right? So inside the if statement, um, let's first start with the condition of the minimum savings, right? So let's say D. So this is D14, right? D14. If D14 is greater than, less than 5,000, right? Then it should display um, minimum savings must be 5,000. Correct? So this is how you can uh, create a condition, right? So for this example, we're going to use uh, nested if statements. So this would be inside this if statement, there would be another if statements, right? So basically, that's what it means. So the first condition is D14 less than 5,000, correct? Then just put a comma. Then here, you will input, if the value is true, this will get displayed, right? So in order to display a text, just put a double quote here, then your text, right? But if you want to call a cell, you can also do that, right? So if the value is true, I want to put, for example, A12 plus, actually you can do conditions here also. A12 plus 8, A12 plus A13, for example, right? So it will display the sum of A12 plus A13, something like that. Or you can also use sum function here. It's up to you, right? So I want A2, let's say A2 up to B12, right? So you can also do that, right? So you can pretty much put any value here that you want to display if the condition is true, right? So for now, we're gonna stick with the text because that's what we are trying to do. So I'll just undo it, right? So minimum savings must be 5,000, right? So we still have an error. So let's continue. So after that, we're gonna put another if statement because we have three conditions, right? So we have the first condition, if allocated saving is the allocated saving must be greater than 5,000. If not, it will display minimum savings must be 5,000, right? Then we're gonna proceed to the next condition, which is the minimum allocated savings must not be greater than the net balance, right? So I'm gonna add another if here. So this is how you can put this is how you can do nested if statements, right? So after this comma, you are not going to put the value of false, right? Because you have multiple conditions, right? So you don't want to put here the value of the if the condition is false already, because what will happen if you put a value here that is false, the value of the false, right? It will not proceed to the if, to the next statements, right? So it will automatically display this one. So since we have three conditions, we want to check three conditions. So we must not put a false value here yet, right? So we want to add another if statement. So to do this, so we're gonna go inside here, the if statement. So always, like I said, check your open parenthesis, right? Check if it's correct, nothing's missing, right? So we're gonna do the allocated savings. So let's go and do that. So D14. So if D14 is greater than C14, right? The net balance. Then put a comma, same process with the formatting of the first condition. Put a comma, then the value, right? So we want to put a text here. So if D14 is greater than C14, it must display you do not have enough net balance. Correct? So that's done, right? So if D14 is greater than C14, if that is true, it will display you do not have enough net balance, right? So we have the last condition, right? So we're done with this already. So how do we insert another if statement here? So as you can see, we're still inside the second if statement, right? This one here. So to add another if statement, you're not gonna do it like this, right? Then put another here. No, that's correct. That's incorrect. You will encounter errors. So to do nested if, you just after this true statement, you just put a comma. So remember now, we're inside the second if statement, correct? Then put the open parenthesis of the next if statement, right? Okay, that's how you do nested if. Then just go ahead and put another condition here on the third if statement. So the third condition is the savings goal, right? So if the minimum allocated savings goal is equal to the savings goal or greater than, then I want to display a congratulations text, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So let's say D14. So this is how you can create this one. So D14, let's put a greater than, then an equal sign. You can both use that, by the way. So if D14, it means that if D14 is greater than or less than E14, right? Then comma, the value if it's true, right? So congratulations, you have completed your savings goal, right? So this one will get displayed if the condition is true. Then now, what if all of the three statements is false, right? So now, since this is the last condition that we will be creating, right? So this is the part where you will be able to put the value if false, right? So if all the conditions earlier are false and this one also is false, then you will now put the false value here. So just put a comma. Then, so if you remember, um, if all these three is false, then it will display the percentage, right? Your progress, right? So to do that, if you remember, our formula is D14 divided by E14, correct? So this this would get displayed, right? If all the condition is false, right? So as you can see, we have three closing parentheses here, right? Because we use three if statements, right? So the first if statement, then this one is the second if statement, then inside that is the third if statement, right? Then the value, we put here the value if false, right? So this is where we end the checking of the conditions, right? If the value is false. But if you have another if statement, then what you are going to do is you have to delete this one, okay? Delete that, then proceed to putting another if statement. So just like it's same process with the other ones, right? But since we're done now, we only need three conditions. Then I already put the value of the, if the value is false, then this will be the one that gets displayed, right? So let's press enter. So what gets displayed here? Congratulations, you have completed your savings goal, correct? So because what this is equal to the savings goal, right? So our third condition is working, right? Okay. So now let's first check, right? Um, minimum savings must be 500. So let's make this less than 5,000 to check our conditions, right? Since this is our first condition. Okay. So it's working, right? Since since D14 is less than 5,000 here, it gets displayed, right? Minimum savings must be 5,000. So that's correct. So let's try the second statement. If you do not have enough net balance, so D14 must be greater than C14 in order for this to get displayed, right? So let's start with that. So let's make this greater than the net balance. So the net balance is 136,500. So let's put this into 136,800. Okay, you see? It says you do not have enough net balance because it is greater than the net balance, right? So it is working. So our second condition is working. So does the third, right? So now, what if all of the condition is false? Let's make all of the three conditions false. So I'm just gonna put here. So the minimum is 5,000. So let's go ahead and put 5,000. Then 5,000 is not greater than the net balance, right? So so that condition will be false also. And 5,000, if we put 5,000 there, the savings goal our third condition, right? The 5,000 is not equal to the savings goal. So meaning you haven't reached the goal, right? Or greater than the savings goal. So if all of those conditions are false, then it will display the progress, which is 5%. So in order to reach your progress, you need 95% more, right? So as you can see here, D14 divided by E14. So this one gets displayed right in the end because all of those conditions are false. Right. So yeah, that's how you can do it, right? So I'm going to teach another simple changing of color in in a specific um, cell, right? Or column, right? I mean, then um, just click this cell. Like for example, I want to for example, I change this word to instead of progress, um, let's say percentage. So when this cell is changed to percentage, right? It should change color, right? So the exact text. So this must be case sensitive, right? So I want to change it to green. It must automatically change to green, color green. So how can we do that? So let's go back to progress there. So how you can do that is, so click the cell, right? Now go to format, then under the format, you will see the conditional formatting. Okay, here, click on that. Then on the right, you will see these are format rules, right? Under the format rules, so this is more like a conditioning, a simple conditioning, right? So under this format rules, you will see here a drop down box. Click on that. So it says here create you can set a lot of conditions here actually. So as you can see, you can set text contains, meaning if the text contains, let's say, at or letter A, right? So it will display a color green, right? For example, this one here. So the formatting style, right? So here you will put that character, let's say A. So if the text contains A, then the color of the cell would be green, right? So that's what it basically means. But on this situation, I want to put so let's go ahead and put text contains, right? I want to put percentage, right? So if the text contains percentage, like this one here, so meaning if the text contains percentage, right? So we're referring to this cell, right? Then you can change the color here. So let's set it to light blue. Oh no. Let's change it to green, I guess. So if the text contains percentage, right? It will change its color to green because this is the format that we set here. So let's test that if it's working. So let's click done here. Okay. And also you can add another rule. You can also add another rule here. So let's go back to format again. Okay. So you can also add another rule here, guys. So let's say you want the progress. So let's set this to text contains. So I want to put here progress. So if the text contains progress, I want it, let's say, red. Oh no, that's too dark. Let's go ahead with this one. Okay. Then click done, right? So we have two conditions here, format rules. So let's go ahead and try that. So it already, as you notice, it already changed to its color, right? Because it's the cell that, and the inside the cell it says progress, right? All right. So it's so okay. So let's try that now. So let's change this to progress, right? So what does it say? The color changed, right? The color changed because we have a condition here, right? So if you set the text to percentage, so it turns to green, right? Correct? So that's how you can simply change the color of your cell. Um, you just have to you just have to click again, go to the format, then conditional formatting, right? Then you can see here the conditional format rules that you have recently made, right? So we have two. And if you want to delete it, you can remove it. Remove the rule, right? So if you want to add another rule, right? So you can do whatever you want here. There are lots of options here. If you want text does not contain, you can also set here numbers, right? Let's say greater than. You can also set greater than here. So let's say if the number is less than 10, it will change its color, right? So I mean greater, let's change that to less than. I mean, so if it's less than 10, it will change to color red, for example, right? So let's go ahead and try that. So it didn't work, right? So let's, for example, this is, let's assume this is a number, right? This is a cell that you use to compute numbers, right? So if I put here 9, it changes to red. The cell color changes to red, right? Because it's less than 10, like what we did here on the format rules, right? So this is useful for let's say you have an inventory, right? And it's less than 10, the stocks is less than 10, then it will automatically change its cell color. So that can be helpful in determining which one is already low on stock, right? So that this can be a great option to categorize things, right? So that you can easily tell through color coding, right? Now that this one is low on stock. Then if it's greater than 10, then you can change the color to green, right? So you can add another rule here also. So I want it's greater than, let's say greater than. Also you can choose here, we also have other options here. We have greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, right? It's really up to you. So I think for this one I'm gonna go with greater than or equal to. We want it to set to green color, the cell color, if it's equal to 10 or greater than, right? So let's go ahead and put 10 here, then click done. So as you can see, here are the formats rules that we made so far, right? So let's try 10 here. See, it changes to green, right? So if you put 40 here, it's still green, right? So that's how you can change the color of the cell using the conditional formatting, right? And also um, you can be able to combine this if statement. Then you can combine this one here, the conditional format rules. So for example, this is 5%, right? So let's say I want to, for example, I want to be able to change the text here. So let's say we have progress here, right? Okay, so that's working. So as you can see, let's delete all this conditional now because we don't need that anymore. Oops. Okay, format. So you see that it's not working, right? Because it says text contains progress, but we have a small letter P here. So what are we going to do with that? If you put here progress here, okay, so it's not working. So instead of text contains, we can also use text is exactly, right? So text is exactly like progress. So click done. Let's delete this one. Actually, let's delete it and let's add add a rule again, right? So I'm gonna turn this to blue. It's not empty, so text is exactly progress. That's a progress. Change that to green, right? So click done. So why didn't it work? Let's check. So progress. Okay, it worked. Okay, progress, right? So it turns to green. But if we put capital P here, it's not gonna. It's not gonna. Oh, it's still the same, right? But if you put another word here, percentage, let's say, so it changes to color blue. Why does it change to color blue? Because this is the color that the default color that you set for this cell, right? So that's why it's turning to color blue. So let's go ahead and add another condition again. So let's here on this example we use text is exactly. So it must be exactly the same, right? With this word progress. Then let's do what color should we use? I think I'm gonna pick pink. Okay, so let's try that. Turns to green. Oh, I'm sorry. Why is it progress? It should be percentage. Percentage. Sorry. Okay, so percentage. Let's try changing the text. Okay, right, so it's working, right? So if we try progress, change this to progress, if we change to, it changes to blue because our condition here, if we look at the condition here, it's a small letter P, right? So our condition is text is exactly, right? So let's change that to capital. So let's try to input that text again. Okay, right. I guess I just misspelled it. That's why it's not working a while ago. Anyway, so progress, right? Then let's try again. So it turns to pink, right? So yeah, that's how you can change colors on your cell, right? And use conditional formatting, right? So you can also combine these two, right? Using your if statement, you can also um, using your if statement, you can also manipulate the data here on your progress, right? You can also manipulate the data here. You can put a conditional statement here, right? Like example, if statement, right? Something like that, right? You can put an if statement there to. So let's say I want to, if this percentage, this is 5%, right? So if this one turns to 50%, then it you can use an if statement here on this cell to um wherein if the value of this one is 50%, it will change its text to, let's say, percentage. Then since you have a conditional format here on your colors, right, which is if the text is exactly percentage, it will turn to pink. So it will automatically turn to pink, right? So you don't have to manually um, um, edit this, change this text here on your cell every time, right? So you can do that, and I will not be I will not be discussing that because it will be part of your activity, so that you can be able to um, create a logic on how you can do that, right? So yeah, and pretty much that is all that I want to discuss on this lesson, and I hope that so far you are able to practice and get familiar with using the nested if statements, right? And this is how you can maximize using Google Sheets. So there are a lot of advanced topics also on Google Sheets that you can use. So these formulas that we are using is just the basics, and it is important that you are familiar with these basic things that you can do in Excel, so that you can be able to use it in the near future, right? And yeah, and if you have any questions, just leave a comment on this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe my channel for more topics like this. And that is all for now, and thank you.